is Inscription going to be any good in the War Within? That's what we're going to focus on today as we continue our previews, essentially. So Inscription is a profession that has historically been really, really good at expansion openings due to Darkmoon decks. That changed a little bit in Dragonflight, and sadly that's the same way in the War Within, which sort of changed. The Dragonflight setup changed Inscription quite significantly with a lot of new types of recipes related to crafting items, the epic gear with missives and stuff like that. And there's not that many recipes for not that many different recipes for Inscription this time around. We're actually losing some things. So for instance, we're losing the weapon runes. They are no longer an Inscription craft. We have the return of epic weapons, but we don't longer have epic crafted Darkmoon decks, or rather we have the Darkmoon decks, but they can't be upgraded. I don't think anyone did that in Dragonflight, so it doesn't matter much. We do have something new instead, which we'll cover. We have contracts returning, we have missives returning, we have proficient equipment, we have treatises returning, and we have the PvP trinkets returning, essentially. So overall, it's similar, but a little bit less over in terms of what you can craft compared to Dragonflight. So on the gear side of things, you have some weapons, some staffs and offhands, essentially, for epic gear, which is what we care the most about. So you have the int staff, you have the agility staff, and you have an offhand that can be embellished and increase in item level and all of that jazz. In Dragonflight, this was very unpopular, mostly due to the fact that the staffs took 2 sparks, so it took 2 weeks and you only got 1 item, so it just was really low value. It looks like it's just 1 spark on beta, so maybe staffs are now a really good option for a craft first week to get a guaranteed strong weapon that covers both your slots, essentially. So this is might be more interesting than it was in Dragonflight, where it was really bad. Then you have the PvP trinkets, which were fine. I made some gold with these. They didn't sell that much. I think there are honor options as well. So these just weren't that great. You also have some PvP weapons here this time around, which could be a little bit better. Sellers for sure. So that's something that's good, which mostly requires the Combatant's Heraldry things, which I do believe you can trade on the auction house, at least the uncommon version. Then we have missives. Missives are back. People are going to want these. I'm not sure how much quality is going to matter. It's 15 recipe difficulty for quality 2. If I remember correctly, quality 3 is 5. So that's a significant decrease, and that might be really important for concentration crafts for maxing quality. Might be that people are going to be like, yeah, if you don't have quality 3, if you have a quality 2 missive, then I'm going to have to charge you more, because then they're going to have to use more of their concentration early on. So we might see some value, but then again, this is being sold into the region-wide auction now, so it's going to be very, very competitive. Unless there's like actual significant value to having max quality here. And then you're going to have to spend your hard-earned concentration. Vantus Rune, similar to before, you want max quality, you're competing on the region-wide auction house. Very high skill, so it does depend. Is it possible to, how much skill can you get from the profession tree? How close can you get to guaranteeing quality 3, or how little concentration can you get away with using? I feel like concentration is gonna be a little bit like a daily cooldown, which is gonna make a lot of recipes better than they might initially seem, at least early on, when no one can get particularly close to max guaranteed max quality or max quality at large quantities. So we'll have to see. Treatises are also back. The one nice thing about them this time around is they don't require any artisan's acuity, but once again, they are bind on pickup, so the only way to do this is through crafting orders, essentially. You're going to look for crafting orders, people are going to have to include all their materials, and you're going to craft them. And that's it. It's going to be, there's literally nothing of value here. There's like resourcefulness and multicraft. So maybe people would be willing to pay a little bit extra for multicraft in personal orders. I don't know. I very much doubt it. I think this is going to be like, you can make like 10 gold per public order or something very insignificant. maybe your resourcefulness procs is really the way you make your gold back if Boundless Cipher is expensive. Now, lastly, Darkmoon cards. So this has been the big way to make gold with Inscription in most expansions, where you've been able to make a lot of gold. And the Darkmoon cards are back, Darkmoon decks are back, but cards aren't crafted. The main way to get them is through world drops, through fishing. Now, there is one thing you can do with Inscription, and that's transcribe. You turn 2 of a specific of the same Darkmoon card into one random card from another deck. So this is interesting, right? It is going to make you might be valuable. If one of the decks is really good and all the other 3 are really bad, then their cards are going to be much cheaper, and you may be able to make some gold on a 2-to-1 basis. There's also the fact that you can get the Epic Tailoring bag, which gives you a 5% chance of proccing an extra card when you do these transcriptions. Obviously, the cards are still going to go into the region-wide pool, but then you're selling the decks on your specific realm. That being said, people can move their decks around from realm to realm, but you're going to want to sell them on high population realms mostly, I would expect. So there's definitely going to be opportunities here around transcription, transcribing cards to other cards or to the most sought after deck, and making decks and selling them for a premium. Going to be high risk, but there's definitely the potential that this is sort of a launch week, launch month, really strong way to make gold. The other thing you can do with the Darkmoon decks is to make embellishments that essentially give you the trinket equip effect as an embellishment that you can put on other pieces of gear. I don't know. This seems unlikely to be super popular to me, because it's going to be very, very expensive. You're going to need to use the Darkmoon deck. You're using that up to get the sigil, and then you're getting a weaker effect, and you're getting the embellished unique equipped. Whereas you don't get the embellished tag when you have this. Of course, it's replacing another trinket effect, so it's possible. If one of these effects is actually like the strongest or one of the strongest effects, then obviously people are going to go for it, and that's going to be very, very profitable to making the decks needed for that. And then I don't think crafting the sigils themselves is going to be super good, but it's possible. I mean, the Shadow Flame armor patches in the second patch of Dragonflight was like the best in slot embellishment that everyone wanted in that patch. And it was very expensive, but there was very little profit. Like, the materials were expensive, and then there was this tiny sliver of profit on top. And it lasted for a really short time. So I think I don't think crafting the sigil is unlikely to be particularly good, but I could be wrong. I think if one of the sigils is really strong, I think you're significantly more likely to make money by crafting the decks needed to craft the sigils, or essentially transcribing cards and maybe fishing for them on an alt by utilizing the fact that if you have the right node here, you have a higher chance of getting cards. You can increase your drop chance of cards. I don't remember which node it is. It's somewhere here. But it doesn't matter that much. So overall, I think Inscription is sort of weird. It's looking weaker than Dragonflight in some respects, because you don't have weapon runes. You're missing some markets or some potential avenues. Like, I was able to make nice gold with having the Inscription racial in Dragonflight and just being in the hidden skill value threshold for weapon runes. Outside of that, it's mostly the same types of items, but yeah, concentration is obviously going to change the math on stuff like Vantis runes and make them more likely to have a profit. You also can't craft Darkmoon cards, but that was a huge loss in Dragonflight anyway, because Awakened Order was so expensive for the packs you could craft. So I feel like transcription is more likely to give like an actual opportunity in the economy surrounding Darkmoon decks. So it mostly depends on the tuning and what sims are saying. Like, are the Darkmoon card effects strong enough? I think the trinkets are probably going to be good, and probably it's going to be one or two of them that are really good. You do seem to have more specific, more just random secondary stat procs essentially, which means that they are going to be good for more different types of specs rather than being like very clearly delimited into healer and tank and DPS pieces, which they've typically done in the past. So yeah, that's it for Inscription. I think it's going to be interesting, but unlikely to be a great long-term gold maker. If it's going to be good, it's going to be good in a short burst around launch, in my opinion.